This is the third move. If you can withstand it, I'll let you go today, Fenley said indifferently. Actually, Fenley had already believed Dustin after dueling with him just now. With skills like Dustin's, it was more than easy to kill Holly without anyone finding out about it. However, Fenley still had to fight with him despite trusting him. Fenley had finally met a worthy opponent, after all. Thus, he couldn't miss out on the chance to duel with him. Watch carefully. Fenley suddenly took a deep breath. His abdomen swelled rapidly as if he had inhaled the entire ocean water. Countless spiritual energies were absorbed into his body. Following that, a dark cloud-like deity suddenly manifested behind him. The black deity statue has a fierce and terrifying face, with a mouth full of sharp fangs. The energy that it emitted especially made one shiver in fear. Everyone standing outside Poise brothel felt suffocated. It was as if a huge rock was weighing down their chests, causing them to feel uncomfortable. Some of the weaker ones started feeling wobbly on their knees. Cold beads of sweat even rolled down their foreheads. As they couldn't take the overbearing energy, they started vomiting. Fury of Thunder God! Fenley suddenly shouted. After that, he manipulated the black deity statue behind him to throw a punch into the air. At this moment, the statue seemed to come alive. It swung its massive fist and smashed them toward Dustin's head. The punch was extremely shocking and unstoppable. Just as Dustin was about to activate energy armor, a frightening thunder blasted beside his ear. The thunderous sound rang directly into his heart, catching him off guard. Dustin's body trembled, and his mind went blank. His limbs seemed paralyzed as he couldn't muster any strength. Dustin could only watch the fist, which was the size of a mountain, coming toward him. He would be smashed into a pulp. Almost instinctively, Dustin tried to defend himself. He crossed his arms and lifted them above his head. He decided to withstand this powerful blow with his physical strength. With a loud bang, the fists of the black deity directly slammed Dustin into the depths of the earth like a sledgehammer driving a nail. A terrifying burst of energy suddenly erupted, and another series of thunderous explosions echoed. The powerful shockwaves from the explosion instantly swept through the entire Poise brothel. Poise brothel was already on the verge of collapse. After withstanding such an impact, it collapsed and crumbled into ruins. The onlookers standing outside were also flung all over the place. Instantly, cries and moans rang out, although they were standing quite a distance away. The impact of Thunder God's attack was hard to withstand. Once the debris settled, everyone took a closer look with the help of the moonlight. The once luxurious Poise brothel had now turned into a pile of debris. It no longer had the same glory as before. If the onlookers didn't back away in time, they would have been buried alive. Suddenly, a white figure soared into the sky from the ruins before landing gracefully. It was Fenley. Compared to before, Fenley looked a bit pale. There were beads of sweat on his forehead, although he seemed indifferent. One could tell that he had used up a lot of energy for that attack. After all, he was breathing heavily. It's a compliment to be able to die from my Fury of Thunder God. Fenley let out a huge breath. Dustin was indeed capable. However, he was still lacking when compared to Fenley. It was considered a respect for a capable person to be killed using Fury of Thunder God. Ha ha ha, he won. Mr. Hudson won. Elena couldn't help but feel ecstatic when she saw the imposing Fenley. She almost fell off her wheelchair because of how excited she was. Oh, Dustin. Even if you have 9 lives, you should be dead now, Elder sneered. She could finally relax now. Suddenly, something seemed to move from the ruins. Immediately, everyone looked over. This was especially the case for Eleanor and Elena. Their hearts thumped furiously as they stared at it. They wondered if Dustin was not dead yet. Eleanor and Elena gulped nervously. They fixed their gazes on the spot where the strange noise came from the ruins. They feared that Dustin would suddenly pop up from it. If that happened, it would be way too scary. After staring at it for a while, they let out a sigh of relief after confirming that nothing happened. They felt completely relaxed at this point. It looks like we're overthinking. Nobody can withstand such a strong attack. I'm sure Dustin is already smashed to bits. Eleanor wiped the sweat off her forehead. That's right. Even someone made from iron couldn't have survived. Elena quickly nodded. The noise just now must have been something else. Otherwise, there was no way Dustin wouldn't have died. Fenley's attack was terribly strong, after all. In the end, the duo was just giving themselves a scare. Fenley also secretly let out a breath. Honestly, he was also shocked by the strange noise just now. He was thankful that Dustin was not alive. Otherwise, it would be embarrassing for him. Eleanor, the jerk, is already dead. We must go and have a few drinks to celebrate when we return, Eleanor said smilingly. No problem. I can finally sleep well after eliminating this problem. Eleanor also grinned. Just as the two were in a celebratory mood, something suddenly happened. With a bang, someone suddenly burst out from the ruins. It was as if he was a fish that jumped out of the water. After pausing in midair for a moment, the figure finally landed and stood atop the ruins. It was Dustin. Am I seeing this right? He's not dead. Oh my God. What kind of creature is he? Everyone was stunned at the sight. Nobody predicted that Dustin would still be alive after suffering such an intense attack. They couldn't comprehend how he could survive that. How is he still not dead yet? Eleanor was horrified. Her lips trembled and shock was etched all over her face. No way. How could Fenley not kill him? He had given it his all. Eleanor kept shaking her head. She could not believe it. After all, Fenley was one of Oakvale's for Princes and Celestial Alliance's grandmother. Everyone knew how capable he was. Logically speaking, such a prominent figure should find killing Dustin as easy as stepping on an ant. However, Fenley had failed over and over again. Why is this happening? At this moment, even Fenley was stunned. He was a fully developed grandmother martial artist. Whenever he used Fury of Thunder God, he could temporarily boost his cultivation level. In other words, Fenley's attack just now was an ultimate grandmaster's level. The power of his attack was enough to kill all. Grandmother martial artists instantly. Fenley couldn't understand why Dustin was still alive. He wondered what background he had. Fury of Thunder God is true as what they say. Today truly has been an eye-opener for me. Dustin silently stood on top of the ruins. There was a hint of admiration in his eyes. Not only was Fury of Thunder God immensely powerful, but it also attacked Dustin mentally. That thunderous roar had reverberated through his heart. It could instantly render a person immobile and unable to activate their true energy. Dustin had to admit that he was cutting it close just now. Thanks to this body's self-defense mechanism, he subconsciously made a blocking move. Otherwise, he might have died or have been severely injured if that punch had landed on his head. The four elements of God's technique truly live up to its reputation as a supreme skill in the martial arts world. Each move was more powerful than the other. If the third move, Fury of Thunder God, was already this extraordinary, the fourth move, Fury of Lightning God, would be even scarier. Who are you? Fenley furrowed his brow, his expression grim. Although Dustin looked a bit haggard in his battered clothing, there was not a single injury on him. Most importantly, Dustin was breathing normally and looked refreshed. It seemed as if he got more and more energetic after fighting. It was extremely terrifying. At this moment, Fenley spotted something and widened his eyes. Through Dustin's battered clothing, Fenley discovered in shock that Dustin had a Kirin tattoo. The Kirin was black, causing its red eyes to stand out. It emitted an eerie light under the moonlight. It was even more terrifying that Fenley felt an uncontrollable sense of fear when he looked into the Kirin's eyes. It was a kind of domination that originated from the depths of the soul. One would find it mysterious and difficult to resist. When Kirin appears, all other animals have to bow down to him. Are you perhaps Kirin, Logan Reese? Fenley asked after pausing for a moment. He had long heard of the famed Kirin. He was a legendary character that none of the geniuses in Dragonmarsh could surpass. After all, Kieran completely outclassed all others. Finley first started his journey in the martial world 10 years ago. However, Logan had already made his name and was very influential in the martial arts world. Among all his peers, nobody in the world could match or surpass him. It was after Logan mysteriously disappeared that various talents emerged in Dragonmarsh. Almost 100 families tried to compete for Logan's position. Although Finley was arrogant and didn't take anyone seriously, Logan was an exception to him. In his eyes, Logan was the only opponent to him. Finley didn't know much about what happened 10 years ago. However, Finley was sure that Logan had a special Kieran tattoo. This was also why people had referred to Logan as Kieran. Thus, Finley thought of Logan the moment he saw the tattoo on Dustin's chest. Dustin had the same surname as Logan, was also capable, and even had a Kieran tattoo. Thus, Dustin must be Logan. The person in front of Finley must be the Kieran, Logan Reese. What Kieran? Is that right? No way, isn't Kieran already dead? Why would he appear here now? Finley's question caused a discussion to spark among the crowd. Everyone was especially shocked when they saw Dustin's exposed Kieran tattoo. Oh my god, he even has a Kieran tattoo. Isn't that too much of a coincidence? Perhaps. Is he really the renowned Kieran? At this moment, the situation was chaotic. Compared to the duel just now, everyone was more curious about Dustin's identity. After all, Logan was a legendary figure. Plus, he was the crown prince of West Lucosia. Whether it was in terms of status, talent, or strength, he was among the absolute elite. Most importantly, Kieran had already been missing for 10 years. It was long rumored that he had died from sickness. Now that everyone saw him standing in front of them, they naturally felt stunned. If this news were to get out, it would undoubtedly be shocking. Dustin is actually Kieran. How could that be? Eleanor and Elena were stunned. The duo widened their eyes and looked at each other. They couldn't accept this at all. This news was a bolt from the blue for them. No way, this isn't possible. Logan is such an outstanding martial artist. How can Dustin be compared to him? It must be a coincidence. Eleanor couldn't believe this. She had known Dustin for some while. To her, Dustin was a lowlife. Thus, there was no way he would suddenly become the unparalleled Kieran. It was simply improbable. You must have gotten it wrong. A Kieran tattoo doesn't symbolize anything. Anyone could tattoo this on their chest. Perhaps Dustin only got this tattoo to scare us off. After a moment of shock, Elena also looked suspicious. Nobody knew Dustin better than her. When she first met him in Millsburg, Rosalind and Florence described Dustin as an absolute loser. The most he knew was a bit of fighting. Dustin was completely out of the unbeatable Kieran's league. Looking at the battered clothing that revealed his tattoo, Dustin couldn't help but let out a sigh. He didn't expect that a small mistake on his part would expose his identity. It seemed there would be trouble for him in the future. I've heard of you for a long time. After meeting you today, I find that you really live up to your reputation. Finley clasped his hands together and lowered his head in respect. Only a few people could earn his respect, and Logan was one of them. You got the wrong person. I'm not Logan. Dustin shook his head. Naturally, Dustin wouldn't admit his identity in front of so many people. At present, he would do his best to hide his identity. As expected, it's just a misunderstanding. How could Dustin be the crown prince of West Lucosia? Elena immediately grinned after hearing Dustin deny it. She had truly gotten a shock just now. Thankfully, it was just a misunderstanding. What a relief that it's just a misunderstanding. Where dead meet otherwise, Eleanor also let out a deep sigh. She felt like she had just survived a disaster. Eleanor and Elena had done so many things to harm Dustin. If Dustin really was the Reese Kieran, they would be doomed. Not only that, but even their family would suffer the same fate. When that happened, it was the end for the two and their family. Logan, It's useless even if you don't admit to it. People like us are destined to live an extraordinary life. Even if you try to hide your identity, you'll still expose yourself one day. Honestly, I was looking forward to fighting head-on with the former Kiran. However, you seem to have changed. You lost the drive and vigor you once had. You're not the arrogant and domineering genius I know of. Fenley shook his head. I don't know what you're saying, Mr. Hudson. We've already exchanged 3 moves, according to the promise we had just now. You should stop here, Destin replied indifferently. Perhaps Holly's death has nothing to do with you. However, we should have a duel. I want to know who's more capable, me or the former Kiran, Fenley answered in high spirits. I am nothing compared to you, Destin said. You proved your capability by blocking the first 3 moves of 4 elements of God's technique. However, I'm not sure if you can still withstand the 4th one. There was a hint of mockery in Fenley's eyes. After learning the 4 elements of God's technique, Fenley had never used the 4th skill, Fury of Lightning God. Firstly, the attack was way too overbearing and hard to control. Secondly, it would consume a huge amount of energy. Once Fenley used it, all of the energy in his body would be depleted. Thus, it was a move that would lead to his downfall if he didn't succeed. Fenley wouldn't easily use it if it was not a matter of life and death. However, he was willing to take a risk just to battle with Destin. Mr. Hudson, we should stop fighting. Destin shook his head. What? Are you scared? Back then, Kiran was never afraid of challenges. However, you see, Meek, you're nothing like him. Honestly, I'm disappointed in you. Fenley furrowed his brow. Let's spar again in the future if we have a chance. However, let's not do it today. Destin looked around his surroundings. More and more people started to gather. If Destin didn't get away soon, it would get more troublesome for him. There's no time better than the present. Let's do it tonight. Fenley was ready for battle. As he spoke, he suddenly took a deep breath. A huge amount of spiritual energy from heaven and earth rushed in from all directions and flowed into him continuously. Soon afterward, Fenley suddenly appeared bigger, more terrifying, and more shocking. His black eyes suddenly became white. All his hair stood on its end, and his clothes flapped loudly in the wind. Thunder rumbled, and lightning flashed around him without stopping. In the next moment, Fenley's feet suddenly lifted off the ground as he levitated. He looked like a celestial being and a devil at the same time. He appeared very proudful and impressive. Even though the battle hadn't started, his presence was domineering, and it left everyone breathless. At this moment, all those present had the sudden urge to get on their knees to worship him. They felt the reverence for him deep within their beings. It was as if Fenley was no longer human. Instead, he was an almighty being. This is the most lethal move in the 4 elements of God's technique. It's known as Fury of Lightning God. Keep your distance, people. Be careful not to get yourself caught in the middle of this move, too. Someone shouted excitedly, and the crowd immediately moved further backward out of fear. They didn't need this reminder to know it was getting dangerous. Compared to the first 3 moves, it was obvious that Fenley's upcoming attacks would be more powerful. All those present were panic-stricken, and they could feel their skin crawl even though the battle hadn't begun. Mr. Hudson is finally going to use his secret weapon. Destin Reese is certainly dead meat this time. Elena said viciously, "Kill him. Please kill him. He must be killed." Eleanor said through gritted teeth, her face twisted into a wicked expression. The better Destin became, the more threatened they felt. If he didn't die tonight, it'd be a huge problem in the future. As such, they could only hope that Fenley could get rid of Destin once and for all to prevent future problems. "Stop!" A loud voice suddenly boomed from nowhere. Soon afterward, a gleaming golden arrow shot out from the darkness, heading toward Fenley with lightning speed. The golden arrow tore through the air, casting a long and golden shadow in its trail. Even though it wasn't very impressive, it was surprisingly fast, like lightning. It hit its target in the blink of an eye. Fenley's eyelid twitched, and he instinctively raised his forearm to block it. The arrow penetrated Fenley's protection armor energy. In addition to puncturing his protection, the terrifying propulsion caused Fenley to stagger a few steps backward. The potency of the upcoming attack instantly disappeared into thin air. The crowd was shocked by this sudden turn of events. No one expected anyone to sneak up on Fenley, much less cause him to retreat a few steps backward. "Who's that? Who shot me?" Fenley was somewhat miffed. His sharp gaze looked in the direction of where the arrow came from. It was me, in the darkness, an elegantly dressed, handsome young man strode in with his head held high. Behind him were two beautiful female assistants. One held his bow, and the other carried his quiver as they walked side by side. "It's you." Fenley raised his eyebrows slightly in surprise when he saw the man. He was none other than Adam Spanner, one of Oakvale's four princes. Oh wow, isn't he Adam Spanner, the god of military? What is he doing here? Fuck, it really is the god of military. This is going to be good. Oh my, the god of military is so handsome. He looks so much better in person. The sudden appearance of Adam Spanner caused a stir in the crowd. Some young women even appeared lovesick as their eyes shone with admiration. Dragonmarsh had four gods of war but had only one god of military. The god of military was someone who was brave and visionary. He was also well-versed in literary works and martial arts. In addition to being above everyone in courage and martial arts, Adam Spanner was a highly intelligent person. The most important point was that he had a face that could captivate the attention of most women. In terms of popularity, Adam Spanner was definitely at the top in Dragonmarsh. There would always be a huge uproar wherever he went. "Fenley Hudson, it's about time to stop. Don't you have anything else to do? Why are you here fighting and killing in the middle of the night?" Adam said calmly. "Adam Spanner, do you know the person in front of me?" Fenley gestured with his chin. "Why does it matter? Everyone must obey the law under the prince's rule. You're causing too much of a ruckus. Don't say I didn't warn you if you continue to fool around." Adam said expressionlessly. "From the looks of it, I think you already know." Fenley scanned the area and suddenly understood. He added, "You came here on purpose to help Dustin Reese, correct? But do you think you can hide what happened today? Fenley Hudson, you're part of the martial world. You drink and have fun every day. Isn't it better for you to just be a selfless hero? Why are you so nosy?" Adam ridiculed him. "Since you already know that I'm part of the martial world, then you should know that in my world, power is king," Fenley said. Then he continued loudly, "All these years, I never lost in a battle. I've never met my match, and I feel very lonely. So now I really need a very strong opponent to ignite my will to fight. Kieran Dustin Reese will be the ultimate proving ground. Once I defeat him, I'll be second to none." Second to none. Adam laughed when he heard that. Then, in a sarcastic tone, he said, "Fenley Hudson, forget about Dustin Reese. You can't even beat Glenn Hadley, your own peer. How are you going to be second to none? Glenn Hadley from the Sword Union." Fenley narrowed his eyes. He added coldly, "Glenn Hadley may be skilled, but he might not be my match. When I get the chance to meet him, we'll find out who's better. However, right now, my target is Dustin Reese. Fenley Hudson, Oakvale is not ruled by the Celestial Alliance. You cannot do as you please. If you dare to do anything stupid, I might just put a few holes through you." "What? Are you challenging me?" Fenley raised his head slightly. The god of military might be very popular, but he was good at warfare and strategizing. If it was a one-on-one battle, Fenley was quite confident that he could win. "Challenge? You're thinking too much. I like to fight in groups," Adam said honestly. "If you want to fight, you only have two options. Either you fight all of us alone, or we'll all bash you together. Take your pick." Fenley was speechless, and his eyelid twitched. He had never thought that the military god would say something so shameless in such a serious manner. He had no spirit of sportsmanship at all. Hey, are you done thinking about it? Are you going to fight? Adam turned the tables against Fenley and started rushing him. Fenley was quite annoyed. Dustin Reese was already a handful. He wouldn't be able to win if he had to fight Adam Spanner as well. It was just that this opportunity was hard to come by. And Fenley really didn't want to miss it. Aren't you afraid people will laugh at you for bullying the weak? Fenley tried to upset him on purpose. You may abide by the rules of the martial world, but I live by the rules at the front line. You're used to individual fights, and I respect that. However, we're used to fighting in groups. Don't you think you should show some respect to us as well? Adam asked matter-of-factly. You're so unreasonable. Fenley was angry. Adam clearly lacked sportsmanship, yet he spoke in such a confident manner. He had never seen someone so shameless. All right. Stop yapping. If you want to fight, let's fight. If not, just leave. Don't waste my time. Adam was getting a little impatient. His little speech successfully provoked Fenley to the point where he almost lost his composure. For someone who was inarticulate, he knew very well that it wouldn't do him any good if he continued this fight. He would only get himself into a lot of trouble. The best thing for him right now was to retreat. Adam Spanner, I'll remember this. This won't be the last of me. Your presence today has further enhanced Dustin Reese's status. I hope you don't live to regret this. Farewell. With that, Fenley disappeared into the darkness in a flash. Adam glanced at Dustin and shrugged helplessly. As Fenley had said, it was no longer possible to keep Dustin's identity a secret. The incident that happened in Central City spread like wildfire throughout Oakville within one night. Despite the Spanners' family influence, it was impossible to stifle information about the incident. It would have the opposite effect if they decided to interfere. It doesn't matter. Let's go with the flow, Dustin said, shaking his head lightly. He didn't seem to mind too much. He knew that this would happen and had already prepared himself to face the worst when he arrived at Oakville. He could not run away from the inevitable forever. It was time for him to face his enemies. Eleanor, what are we going to do now? In the crowd, Eleanor looked very nervous and broke out in cold sweat. Fenley had already left, and their plan to kill Dustin had failed completely. They were now in great danger as they might lose their lives at any moment. We should leave as fast as we can. It's better to stay alive. Eleanor gritted her teeth and made up her mind, even though she felt a little dissatisfied. Their only way out was to seek help from Anders and plan their next move. When they turned back and got ready to leave, they saw a flash before their eyes. Before they knew it, Dustin, who was initially quite far away, was already standing before them. Where do you think you're going? Dustin turned slowly and looked at them with a cold but murderous gaze. We were just going home as there's a sudden emergency. We have to go now. Eleanor forced a smile. Is that so? Do you guys want a ride? Dustin asked with a cold expression. Thanks, but we don't want to trouble you. We can get going on our own. Eleanor's face appeared frozen. No trouble at all. Dustin suddenly smirked and said, Besides, I'd like to send you to hell. You're most welcome. Have a pleasant journey. Huh? Eleanor shivered and almost peed her pants when she saw Dustin's eerie smile. When she regained her composure, she quickly begged for forgiveness. Dustin, please, can we talk about this? It was all a huge misunderstanding. Are you upset? We can certainly talk it over. Give me a reason not to kill both of you. Dustin inched closer with a killer gaze. The reason is, keeping us alive is beneficial to you too. Eleanor racked her brain and found an answer. She continued, Didn't you want half of our inheritance? We'll agree to all your requests. As long as you don't kill me, we'll agree to anything. Too late. Dustin shook his head. If you had come to this realization earlier, I might have considered letting you live. However, I realize that both of you are very stubborn, and you are better off dead. Dustin, it's our fault. I know it's all our fault now. Elena was flabbergasted, tugging at Eleanor's sleeve for support. Eleanor, quick, say something. If not, we're both dead meat. Why are you so nervous? Useless. At this moment, Eleanor suddenly became very haughty and refused to budge. With her head held up high, she said, Dustin Reese, I'll never get on my knees to beg you. I'm the daughter of a great family, and I'll never surrender to someone lowly like you. Eleanor's face paled when she heard that. She growled, Eleanor, are you crazy? Do you know what you're talking about? Do you want to die? HMPH, do you think he'll let us live if we beg for forgiveness? Dream on, Eleanor said. With a solemn expression, she continued, he'll be more arrogant if we show fear. We must not boost his ego. What if he gets angry if you keep upsetting him? Elena asked, looking stricken. She had already witnessed Dustin's true potential earlier. Even Finley, one of the good fighters in the city, couldn't take him on. It was enough to show that Dustin was a force to contend with. Once he got angry, he could easily kill them. HMPH, there are so many people here. I don't think he dares to do anything stupid. Eleanor shouted. Do you think there are too many people? Not a problem. I'll take care of it. Dustin snickered as he turned around and winked at Adam. Adam quickly understood what he meant and got his subordinates to disperse the crowd. Within a few minutes, the unusually busy place was now very quiet. Eleanor's eyelid twitched, and she broke out in cold sweat at the sight before her. Eleanor, what are we going to do now? There's no one around now. Eleanor was distraught. Dustin Reese, don't think you can scare me like this. You should know that I still have someone powerful to back me up. Eleanor roared. A powerful backup. May I know who it is? Dustin asked casually. The Veros warrior, Anders Mosey. Eleanor puffed up her chest slightly. No wonder both of you were so daring. You have Anders Mosey's support. Dustin nodded knowingly. That is to say, Anders Mosey is the mastermind behind the plan to kill me with a borrowed knife? Hey, I didn't say that. Eleanor's facial expression suddenly changed, and she quickly denied it. Before they executed the plan, Anders had made her promise not to reveal anything about him. If she did, he'd want her to take full responsibility. It's fine if you deny it. I have all the time in the world tonight, and I can play your games. Dustin glanced at Adam. Instantly, Adam snapped his fingers after knowing what Dustin wanted. Adam's female assistants didn't waste time and immediately tied Eleanor and Elena up. Hey, what are you doing? Let me go now. Eleanor was flustered and started throwing threats around. Let me warn you, if you dare to hurt even a single hair on our head, the Veros warrior will not forgive you. You really wouldn't budge, even in the face of death. Dustin said sarcastically, Do you think I'm afraid of Anders Mosey? If I was, why would I kill Scott Mosey?